Hello everybody and welcome back to Coach Quip. I'm Coach Chris.
I'm Coach Robyn.
And this is episode 176. Today we're talking about how to get better at running without running.
What?
I love this idea. I remember being at the Olympic Training Center and being in the sort of like residence halls that they have. And next to me was a fencer. And he had a tennis ball on a string in the middle of his room. And throughout the day, as he was just, curious about or like bored or messing around, instead of going to his phone, he would grab his, what do you call it?
Okay.
Yep. He'd grab his fencing sword and do some skill work on the tennis ball. And so he could just dance around, and while he wasn't actually fencing, he was practicing, right? My basketball player friends can practice dribbling.
Yep.
You can practice shooting. You don't actually need to be fully playing your sport in order to get better at it. So today we were thinking about how can one kind of apply those principles to running? Because we can only run so much.
There is a limit.
There is a limit, and at that limit, your body starts to break down, and it's actually a negative impact because more is more in this case. So in today's episode, we're going to break down 5 tips for you to get better at running that actually don't involve running at all.
I love that. Let's go. Number 1, strength training. We all knew this one was going to be on here, right? We knew. We say it all the time. Your cardiopulmonary system adapts at a faster rate than your musculoskeletal system, so we need to bridge that gap with strength training. So effectively, it preps your body to maintain better form for longer, right? We can hold ourselves up, we can have better hip drive, we can have more stable pelvic region, we can have our glutes work better, we can have our hamstrings work better, everything feels better. But from a number standpoint, we can actually get better at both speed and endurance when you combine strength training with run-specific training. US OPTC, I know that we talked about it in episode 175 as well, little nuggets coming out of there. They actually reduced, going into the 2024 training cycle for the Olympics, they reduced overall run volume by not an insignificant chunk, and they increased their weight training. And I think we can all attest to how the 2024 Olympics went for track and field spectacularly, i.e. the best ever, i.e. people were scared of me at Edge because I was screaming so loudly at the television. It's true.
Do you remember we got the UPS guy to actually stop and watch a race with us?
He came in. It was a final. It was men's 200 final, I think.
They were trying to deliver a package, and Robyn was like, you gotta watch this. It's just chaos.
It was great. But, I mean, it is a huge testament to what you can do when you use this. It's a multiplier. Honestly, I like it because it helps me not hurt as much, right? So running can leave its mark, especially as you age, and it just kind of wears you down a little bit. You want to keep doing it, and you don't want to feel like garbage all the time. Strength training really offsets that. We have a lot of past episodes that address this, but get your notes out. We're going to give you 3 right now. First up is episode 93. We talk about strength training during marathon, or really any endurance or largely aerobic training period. How and why to do it. Really, really, really helpful. It doesn't need to be huge chunks. We're not telling you to do 2-hour sessions here. Second one, myths. Myths about strength training. No, you will not bulk up. This is episode 120. And third is episode 166. The 3 things you need for strength work. Again, these are not overly complicated. They're super approachable, simple things that you can use really to get started to use this multiplier, because you're going to get better at running without extra running by picking up a weight or using your body weight.
The second way you can get better at running without running is to drink more water. So water plays a key role in all of our body's functions, but especially bringing nutrients to cells, getting rid of waste, protecting your joints and your organs, and maintaining body temperature, all key things for regulating your running and for running better. So it's important that you know your fluid needs as you're training, but also that you know your hydration needs out of training as well, and that we hit those numbers. I know a lot of people have a hard time drinking water in the winter months.
Yeah.
Like our desire or our
thirst.
Yeah, I guess our thirst signals are a lot less in the winter months when it's cold outside, particularly in training sessions, but definitely out as well. So it's really important that we focus on hitting those numbers. We also know that water consumption can help with recovery and lead to better racing and training performance. So Well, we haven't done a water episode yet, which is actually kind of surprising to me.
I think that might be episode 177. I mean, that's shocking to me.
It is shocking to me. I feel like we pepper it into a lot of episodes, but we have one episode that's related in terms of in-training fluid consumption. We talked about everything electrolytes. So episode 143, everything electrolytes, and a future episode about water coming up.
I think one of the easiest ways to amplify this is just to actually track it for a couple days and just see how, and track it on the weekday and the weekend, because I know I am so much better when I have normal things going on during a day versus like I'm in a free fall in a car all day. So, track it, and then you'll know where you really can improve.
Yep.
All right, number 3, how you can improve running without running. Prioritize sleep. This is another one that is not going to be a surprise that we are telling you this. It's it's been a minute since we've harped on this, but let's drop a tagline here. Fitness only actualizes through the recovery phase.
It's been a minute since we said it.
I bet we missed it.
Yeah.
Yep. Fitness only actualizes through the recovery phase, and our number one recovery tool is sleep.
That's it.
We literally have a recovery studio 15 feet from where we're sitting, and we are telling you your best recovery tool is sleep. So if you prioritize sleep, you are ultimately recovering better, recovering smarter. You're going to be able to get more out of the work that you put in. It's also going to lead to better energy levels. You're going to be less angry. You're going to have more mental clarity. I know I definitely feel this one. Like yesterday morning, I was wildly underslept. Lots of pug issues, right? And it's like I almost felt inebriated the entire day. I was just behind. But from a training and racing perspective, you're actually going to be able to do those things better because you've repaired. We love these 2 episodes that we've done in the past that are focused around prioritizing sleep. Episode 113, which is literally called Sleep, and episode 154, which is Sleep Strategies Before a Big Race. This is a huge one. If you are heading into a race, no matter big or small, all of us struggle with it, and these are some really great ways on how you can get your arms around it without running.
And I'll add in one extra episode, the 5-minute tips episode, where Coach Robyn gave us the best 5-minute tip that I consistently think about, and I know that we've mentioned a number of times, but his tip for if you only have 5 minutes, how can you get better at your sport, is to push back your bedtime 5 minutes earlier and prioritize sleep. So I think the importance of sleep cannot be overstated, so incredibly important. Moving into number 4, manage your stress. So yeah, you can deal with stress a lot better when you've slept too. All of these tie together. But we often say on here, stress is stress is stress. So all stress, regardless of the source or the intensity, actually accumulates in your body, and it's still considered stress. So it has a similar effect on your body and your mind. So even small stressors can accumulate and add to your overall stress. So what this means in practice is like you have a hard speed workout, your body is recovering from that physical stress and strain. But if you have a tough day at work on top of that, or family issues or anything, you're stressed by the news cycle, all of that gets internalized and dealt with sort of in the same way within your body. So it's really important that you find ways to mitigate that stress. How do you manage your stress in times when you need to? So things like yoga, breath work, meditation, we've talked about some of these things. Nature fix, we have a whole episode.
Love a Florence Williams moment.
We have a whole episode on getting your nature fix. But whatever that looks like for you, stress management tools can be deeply personal because we are all soothed by different things. So find what works for you and stick to that plan. It's helpful to use it throughout your weeks, even on days that you're not stressed, to sort of maintain regular balances here.
One more that I'm going to add to that, which has nothing to do with yoga, meditation, and doing practices, is you might actually need to adjust your training.
Yeah.
So we see this a lot. Our collegiate athletes that find us that let's say they were rocking 90 plus miles a week as a collegiate athlete because they had to worry about school and training, which were still commendable things, but now they're an adult, right? So now we've got work and family, and maybe we pay more for our rent. We have more adult stress. That 90 miles a week would completely blow them up. We need to scale that to maybe 60 miles a week And 60 miles a week plus being an adult equals 90 miles a week, right? Your body does not know the difference, which is also why we should never compare our mileage to pros, because that is their job. You, on the other hand, we, on the other hand, have a job on top of training, right? So adjusting training to manage that stress and offset that life stress is really important. We also have seen a lot of athletes, that in the last 5 years, let's be real, the world has turned upside down. Let's say they used to be really gung-ho on full marathons and they would do 4 a year. Now they're doing halves because the training and racing for a half marathon is the same as a full marathon used to be on repeat pre the world going sideways. So take those things into account as well when we're talking about managing your stress.
That is a really good point. So we have 2 episodes that we've done in the past that might be helpful to listen to about stress. Episode number 141 is about mental health and endurance athletes. Therapy is also a really good stress management tool. And episode 162, which is about anxiety busting.
All right, number 5, last but not least, speak kindly to yourself. I know that I am the biggest person to say this to someone, but it's different in practice. But, we've heard this quote before. Be careful of what you're saying to yourself. You're always listening. You have to believe in yourself, even if you think that nobody else does. And I love to come to it from a place of almost curiosity of like, let's say you have a really hard day and you're like, how am I going to fit this all in? And you're like, you know what? It always seems impossible until it's done. That is not me quoting that. That's Nelson Mandela. But you get the idea. Mm-hmm. Like, I can put that kernel of hope into the fact that I can get it all done. And that is what opens the door and allows it to truly happen. You also need to speak kindly to yourself when you're talking about your goals, right? And I know I have an athlete that they will not admit hardly their big scary goal until they put it in writing, and I'm like circling it and highlighting it, and I'm like, this, you're capable of this. Thinking that to yourself as well. Not everybody has a coach to say that back to them, but be your own coach and say to yourself, I can do that. I can do that hard thing. You don't have to announce it to the world, but you do need to tell yourself that. Yeah, even those private inside thoughts, you don't have to actually vocalize it, but if you are doubting yourself in your own mind, yep, that does does have an impact on what you think you're capable of and how you'll actually perform in training and racing. Like, I remember I hit a specific mile time in my high school mile, and I actually don't remember what it is now because I've trained myself out of this, but for a long time as an adult athlete, even with great amounts of training, a new coach, making Team USA, there were still moments where I was lining up at the start line thinking that I was that 12th grade miler, and like with that number in my mind. Yeah. But it was the repetition of talking down to myself or saying that I wasn't sure that I could do it that became ingrained inside of me. And we see that with our athletes. I think our jobs as coaches, and I feel like my job with my athletes, is to get them to believe in themselves even half as much as I believe in them, and they'll see the benefits of that training. So in addition to speaking kindly with yourself, I would say to find other people who will support you and speak kindly to you as well can be a really helpful way to get faster at running without running. I think this can be something that it just takes a while to get good at. I remember when we first opened Edge, we had an athlete who was a really accomplished cyclist, and she ended up like turning pro, and on that road to going pro started working as a sports psych. And shortly before she moved out of Chicago, I was just picking her brain on like how those sessions had gone, and she was going into a pretty big national race, and she had this session, and she's very confident, very accomplished, and the sports psych said, okay, well, like talk me through like what's gonna happen to the race. And she's like, I'm gonna be toward the front, and then I'll finish with the peloton, which is the group in the front, right? Doesn't mean that you're winning the damn thing. Mm-hmm. And the psych said, well, who's going to win? And she didn't really have a good answer for it. And then she said, well, why not you? Mm-hmm. And the cyclist was like, yeah, why not me? And she literally took that mentality, and I think she ended up winning that race too. Like somebody has to win, why not me, right? Somebody has to break 20 minutes in the 5K, why not me? And coming at it from a place of like, well, someone has to do it, right? And it could absolutely be me. Shows to yourself that you're believing in the possibility of some really cool things happening.
Yeah, it goes back to like that curiosity, right? And I tell my athletes, like, see what your body can do.
Yep.
You've done all this training, and a lot of things can go wrong on race day. And a lot of things are out of your control on race day, but if you go into it with that mindset of, let's see what your body can do, you can really accomplish great things.
The past episode that I think probably addresses this one the best is episode 149 on visualization. This one was really helpful. We've had several people tell us, like, I used part of that before, my tempo run, and it really helped, or before my A race. It helps prime, for lack of a better term, basically showing what can happen when we open ourselves up to accepting that we are badasses.
All right, so to recap, we have 5 ways to get better at running that actually don't involve running at all, starting off with number 1, which is strength training. Make sure you are hitting the gym.
Number 2, drink more water. First step is just to monitor how much you're doing, and then probably improve for most of us.
Number 3, prioritize your sleep.
Number 4, manage your stress. Stress is stress is stress, so you might as well keep it in check so that you can do more work smarter.
And number 5, speak kindly to yourself.
You're always listening. All right, now don't go run. Instead, review these, figure out what else you can do better.
See you next time.
Ciao.
Thanks for listening to Coach Quip. Original music performed by Mend. Follow us online on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Edge Athlete Lounge. Our podcast lives in the blog section of our website. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast, and you can check out the show notes for additional ways to contact us. Ready, set, onward we go.